The new trains of the MBTA Orange Line have been quite the controversy. Not only that, but their manufacture has been as well here in the US. From deadlines being missed to the mass furloughing of employees to other operators across the country quitting their orders with them, something is certainly up. And today we'll be exploring what that something is up with both the trains and the manufacturer as we ride along the MBTA Orange Line and we talk a bit about the line in general. Good morning, my name is Evelyn and welcome to Wellington. Located in Medford, it is pretty bare bones with just a walkway to the tracks and some fare machines and bus bays as well as a parking lot. The main thing that Wellington is known for is the rail yard that it hosts, as well as being a massive transfer hub to buses around the area, including nearby cities such as Everett. Beyond that, there is not too much here, and our train is soon, so I will use my Charlie card to enter. The standard MBTA fare is $2.40 US. However, I paid on a day pass, so I did not have to worry about this fare. The day pass is $11. You can also pay by using a credit or debit card with the balance automatically subtracted from your debit account or added to your credit if you would like to. But now we are already here at the platforms and we have no time to explore as our train has already arrived. These new trains look great on the inside, with so many features that we'll be covering later on. But these features, as great as they are, cannot make up entirely for the problems that have existed nearly going back to the conception of these trains. And so, as our train starts going forward, or not really, we'll go back into history. Although, about that going forward, our train ended up getting stuck here for 4 minutes. The Orange Line has only ever had 3 rolling stock assignments in its entire life. The first were the Pullmans, and they lasted from the 50s until the 80s. While they have a very interesting history and are cool in the fact that they look like the Pullmans on the Red Line today, they're not really what we're going to be talking about much today, as they're not really entirely relevant to the video. However, if you live in New England and you would like to see these trains in real life, you can at the Seashore Trolley Museum in Kennebunkport, Maine. More details are in the description of the video if this is something that interests you. Now, back to the main point of the video. So, after these Pullmans came the Hawker Siddeley's. These came in 1981, and they would serve from 1981 until 2022. I have some memories on these trains, although in my childhood I did not really ride this line that much. So therefore I don't really have too much memories of these trains. But one interesting thing about them is that they're nicknamed the Orange Blossoms. In addition to that, they were also future-proofed for expansion, as similarly to the Blue Line's operation, which uses a switching from third rail to overhead catenary wire, these trains had overheads that were manufactured to be able to fit with overhead catenary wires in the future, should it require it in the case of an extension. While this would never come to fruition, it is very interesting to see how the MBTA was future-proofing way back then. Now, these were designed for the very long haul, and we can see it in the future-proofing that they were designed with. However, 41 years is a very long time for a train to operate. So, starting in 2008, 12 years before retirement, the MBTA began its investigation in what would go to replace these trains, as well as what would replace the Red Line trains when their time came to a close. This investigation would take around 6 years until the point where a new supplier was announced. And this supplier would come to be CNR, a company based in China that was merged into CRRC the next year. CRRC stands for China Railway Rolling Stock Corporation, and while I would love to say more, we've already crossed over the bridge like it is love, and we're thanked for coming to Assembly. But Assembly Square is a relatively basic stop. While there is a nice cute little shopping area here, it is not really that much, and it is only walkable to a point. Once you get around 5 minutes out, it loses its walkability. That being said, it is a cute area to get some shopping done in the summer, although the brands here are very limited. There are also some nice cute cafes, movie theaters, decent restaurants, and also some apartments right here. And if you live on the Newburyport, Rockport, or Haverhill lines, this will be your greeting into the real Boston core, as you will see it just moments before you enter the borders of the city of Boston. While it is beautiful, we need to go back into seeing what all went wrong with CRRC. Now, CRRC is based in China, and that can become problematic when dealing with US regulations. See, US regulations require that public infrastructure and projects, including public transport, must always prefer American-built goods when possible. This means that in order for CRRC to be used for this process, a new plant would need to be built, as there were already other American alternatives with plants in the US, or non-American alternatives such as Alstom, who had plants in the US. Therefore, a plant was built in Springfield, Massachusetts, and you can actually see this plant when driving by on the highway. This clip here is from an old video from way back in 2024. By 2019, the very first of these trains that we are riding today would enter into public revenue service, and it would become problematic immediately. See, these trains were faltering heavily. One even rail jumped on a switch, and while it was only in testing, not with any passengers inside, it still was and remains a serious safety concern. Not only that, but the delays in this manufacturing process would start back in 2019 and compound on and on. And the arrival of the C word that I may or may not be able to say on here would not do anything but amplify this compounding. Contractual obligations originally required all coaches would be delivered by the end of January 2022. There was going to be a fee imposed of $500 per coach per day of delays, and by September, only 78 of the 52, or just barely scraping over half the desired coaches were delivered. By 2023, CRRC had to start rushing, which had resulted in many of the coaches having incomplete safety or cosmetic features. Of course, not all of the delays were the fault of CRRC, and the MBTA recognized this and announced that at the end of the process, they would conduct an assessment on which delays were due to CRRC and which other ones were due to the circumstance of said C word or geopolitics and readjust the delay fee in accordance with that. Regardless though, these trains came with tons of issues, and it would not be until 2025 when that demand was finally met by CRRC to get all of the trains in. Finally though, we arrived at Community College.
This is Community College.
Community College is not the end of our journey, but here you can go to Bunker Hill Community College. Beyond that, there's truly not much. This does, however, act as a natural breaking point for us to go on to talk about what our train actually looks like on the inside before finishing up our discussion of the issues plaguing this train and manufacturer. The inside is concise but does everything correctly. Overhead dot matrices help passengers know what stop they're at and what connections exist there. Screens to the side do this too, but in a much more detailed manner, and they do it from the point of departure from the previous stop all the way until the next stop is departed from. They also show transfer options, including those from non-MBTA organizations where applicable. The seats are relatively ergonomic and will support one for the short journey that they will make on here. In addition, some of them are foldable, accommodating for higher passenger volumes or for people on wheelchairs who would like to sit right next to their friends who are not on wheelchairs. As always, add space lines to the trains, with some walls including maps and the ceilings above the doors also including maps but just at the red line. Soon, we'll be arriving at our destination, so before that, let's talk. To be honest, the things here are looking up for CRRC. While I've said many bad things about them in the video, not all of these things are entirely CRRC's fault, although many are. The MBTA has made these trains faster north of assembly, and while this isn't a CRRC problem, it does have to do with the Orange Line. In addition, the trains have been far exceeding the minimum average requirement of mileage before and between errors, which has been amazing, making it a much more smooth ride experience for passengers who are less likely to encounter delays in their average trip. While I'm hopeful about the future of these trains here in Boston, I'm not as hopeful about the future of CRRC in the US. With the furloughing, the SEPTA order cancellation, and the general state of geopolitics between the US and the People's Republic of China. But before we can get into all of that, we are already arriving into North Station. And as we arrive into North Station, we can come to think of the good and the bad of these trains. And while these trains have a lot of bad, they are not devoid of good in my opinion. Many of this good will also be seen in the future despite the delays, as these trains will likely go on to service for another 30 to 40 years. We have to take into account the whole picture and the whole history of this when thinking of it, and while much of it is bad, I do see potential for the future. One thing I also see potential for in the future with these cars is the Red Line. And if you would like to watch a trip report and mini tour guide of Cambridge and Boston with the Red Line, you can click here. Thank you for watching and have a great day.